This is Stone Frigate, and Stone Frigate is a LARP, which is a live-action role-play, and it's been devised by the artist Matt Stokes, who we've been commissioning to create a piece of work to look at the history and heritage of the Kielder region.
I'm Matt Stokes. I am the organiser of Stone Frigate, artist. And Stone Frigate came about through finding out about the history of HMS Standard, which was a special psychiatric rehabilitation unit that was built by the Royal Navy during the Second World War. Opened in February 1942 and closed in 1945 with the end of the war.
Hi, I'm Chris Welton. I'm a fine arts student. Matt asked me to come along, and I played Commanding Officer Tobias Feltnam. And so my role in the LARP was basically to sort of issue orders and to control my crew of officers. We arrived at the camp and we set the camp up and we briefed the officers, and it was all about retraining for psychiatric patients. What we didn't know was what the patients, how they were going to react, and these people didn't react in a predictable way. Each one of them had a different psychiatric disorder.
It was a cold game, a very real game, and I think that it felt, having been served in the military myself, I actually get the feeling that it was real. And a lot of the things I saw in the army felt real here. The waiting, the contradictory orders, the discipline, and the non-discipline for that matter.
I found it very, very intense. It was like you could gradually get your head around it. It started off that I thought not very much was quite happening, and then the more you got into your character and the more you kind of developed your own narrative, the more you could dominate situations or retreat, and if situations were uncomfortable, you could just lower your character's part in it. So I found it very stimulating and a way of acting which wasn't in front of an audience, which gives you a lot of freedom and a lot of, it takes away if you're shy, it takes away the pressure because there's no audience there. So that was what I liked about it compared to, other acting situations I could have put myself in.
There's a lot of downtime and there's a lot of places to go, but you're taking the LARP seriously, then your character's going to follow you into this wilderness. And it's hard and it's cold and the food's not up to scratch, and you do think about these things like your rum ration and all these things, all these kind of techniques that the game is in the game design.
There were 30 people or players who took part in it, who came from a whole variety of countries, and it was great having such a mix of people and a mix of people of different experiences doing LARPs. It was dealing with issues of mental health and behavioural difficulties, which is why the men in the Royal Navy were originally sent to HMS Standard. Normally there was some kind of conflict with the Royal Navy, which the Royal Navy didn't deem that conflict to be bad enough for the rating to be sent either to prison or to psychiatric hospital. So they were sent to HMS Standard. So it was this sort of very odd in-between sort of ground or world.
There's a lot of attention to detail, goes into making it a really immersive experience. So yeah, I'd love to do it again. And I would like some of the other people involved, I'd probably travel a distance, to be involved in another project.
I'm ready for a beer, and I want a pint and a chat. But I do feel like I've just come from the deep sea and that I need to depressurise in a chamber or something.
I don't know, I suppose some people like playing games. I don't like playing games. If I meet people You can tell people who are playing games, and I really don't like that sort of thing, so I really try to avoid any sort of psychological manipulation that goes on in normal life. So to be confronted with it all, and you're agreeing to participate is quite strange. You know.